Darfur. It's been called the worst humanitarian crisis of our time. 200,000 lives cut short and the disruption of millions more. It's generated the largest displacement in the world, isolating refugees and internally displaced persons in camps far away from their homes and livelihoods. Darfur is a region about the size of France in the isolated western half of Sudan, the largest country in Africa. Sudan has had its share of troubles in the past, including a bloody civil war it is still recovering from, but the conflict in Darfur has wreaked further damage on the country. The conflict started in 2003, but its roots can be traced back to a history of unrest and deprivation felt by many in Darfur. Darfur has long been a home to farmers who make a living tilling crops and raising livestock. Their dusty villages are far removed from the wealthier capital of Khartoum, and many felt neglected by their government. Rebellion broke out. Government efforts to combat the rebels resulted in the creation of a violent militia called the Janjaweed, which targeted innocent civilians. Villages were attacked and burned, their inhabitants forced to flee for their lives. They escaped with few belongings, but were full of horror stories of what they had faced, including the rape and deaths of loved ones. Many did not make the journey to safety. Families took shelter wherever they could, building makeshift huts near the dangerous border region. Such locations offer little safety and extremely little access to basic amenities and resources. Ashi and her young daughter fled their home when their village was attacked in 2004. Exposed to dangerous terrain, sandstorms, and cold winds, they took shelter in a makeshift hut of tree branches. Ashi, who lost her leg when her village was bombed, lived here with her daughter for months. Because of the dangerous conditions and increasing insecurity, the United Nations Refugee Agency and other aid groups have been trying to move the refugees to safer areas from the border region. The refugee camps also offer increased access to basic needs. Life in a refugee camp is not easy. In one of the most desolate and dry places on earth, UNHCR and other aid groups have struggled to quickly build shelters, schools, medical clinics, wells, and latrines for the refugees, many who were forced to leave everything behind. The camps are crowded, and there is often little privacy. Resources and supplies are in scarce supply. Tensions can run high, and at times lead to violence. Here, a young boy huddles under a blanket to protect himself from the harsh winds and sand. Resources, particularly water, are scarce in such an arid region. Access to water is critical in determining where camps are located and how many people the camps can sustain. Seasonal droughts hit the region hard, drying up wells of groundwater. During such times, aid workers must truck in water from other areas. While there may be barely enough for people, what is available is often not adequate to sustain livestock. The loss of these animals is disastrous for refugees, who often depend on them for food and transport. Many other animals are stolen by the Janjaweed when they attack villages. A family's daily survival and household tasks often fall to women. In the refugee and IDP camps, women start their days early by pumping water and then carrying the heavy containers back from the common wells. Getting enough food to eat is also a problem for many displaced people. Sudan already has difficulty feeding its population, and the conflict has disrupted the harvests, forcing many to go hungry. Feeding refugees and IDPs is one of the most important roles of aid workers. The World Food Programme works in the region to alleviate hunger. They often airdrop bags of mixed grains for distribution in the camps. Refugees are also given cooking oil, flour, and other foodstuffs. Food distribution is often closely regulated to ensure it gets to the neediest people. When a bag bursts, though, people are free to collect what they find. Here, women from the El Ganaya IDP camp gather grain that has spilled from some of the bags. With the harvest disrupted and refugees away from their crops and fields, the work of groups like UNHCR and the World Food Programme is critical to preventing starvation. The hard work and strong spirits of people like these women also help refugees to continue with their lives. Caring for the sick and wounded is another priority in the refugee and IDP camps. Hundreds of thousands of people were injured in the conflict and often require intensive care. The crowded camp conditions can also lead to the spread of disease and infection. Preventing and treating outbreaks is critical. This boy suffered a facial wound when his family's village in Darfur was bombed. His parents fled their home and took him by donkey to this hospital in Chad, where Doctors Without Borders is helping him recover. Mosquito nets are also very important in containing diseases spread by insects. The rains can bring problems as well. These refugees were forced to flee once more when their camp was flooded. Aid workers helped them to reach a new, safer location. Running a refugee camp is no easy job. There is often not enough staff or supplies. As more people seek shelter in the camps due to weather and security reasons, they become overcrowded. Sometimes clinics can have trouble finding room for even the smallest new arrival. Simply surviving another day is the goal. Refugees and other displaced persons dream of the day they can return to their homes. As the years stretch on, this dream can seem more remote. This Masalit woman would never get the chance to return home. Women and children make up the majority of the refugee population, as men are often targeted in village attacks. Women are then under the added stress of being the primary care provider for their traumatized family and must struggle to raise their children in the camps. Even collecting firewood can be dangerous, as women and girls often have to travel very far from the camp. Beyond the security of the camp, they are often attacked and raped. Young girls often bear heavy burdens. They must help to care for their families and sometimes younger children, performing many household tasks such as collecting grain. Many also attend school and must work on their studies. Life is especially hard for the children of Darfur, who make up a large part of the refugee and internally displaced population. Their normal childhood of playing with friends and going to school is lost for the uncertain and frightening life of a refugee. Children often witness terrible attacks on their homes, lose family members, and then are forced to flee for their lives. Adapting to life in a refugee camp can also be difficult for children, who must often take on the responsibilities of an adult and watch out for younger siblings. These children in Abu Zar have been living in a school building, the only place they feel safe. They have decorated the walls with pictures of planes dropping bags of food. Many children still wish to attend school and learn English and other subjects so they may have a brighter future. Even while helping their parents in household tasks, they still want to study and get an education. This young girl studies a math workbook in a refugee shelter. And education isn't their only wish. Refugee children, just like their parents, also dream of the day when they can safely return to their homes and villages in Darfur.